Okay, so I wanted to provide a video for you all regarding the course map because when I've done this assignment with students in the past, there's been a number of questions at the course map. It's an exercise that's not necessarily familiar to everyone. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that I'm recording this lecture through the Zoom feature where you can go ahead and basically Zoom. I'm Zooming with myself. So instead of having a teleconference with someone else, I'm just in a conference room by myself. I've decided to record this meeting and share my screen so that what's on my screen can be recorded as well. So if you're in a pinch and you need to record a lecture, this is one way to do that. And then after I'm done, I'm going to use some of the editing options that oftentimes come with your computer or your phone to then edit this video and then upload to YouTube. And then I'm actually going to put it in something called Play Pause It, where you can then go ahead and answer questions as you're watching the video, which after reading your feedback for the Canvas videos was definitely one thing that you're like, hey, it'd be nice to have this video chunked a little bit more with some more questions. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. So this document in front of you is what we call the course map. Now, this is by no means something that is standardized throughout the field. Some people use a course map, some people use a course blueprint, an outline. It comes in different formats. This is just one map that we use at the Center for Online Innovation and Production. And actually, I'm using the Microsoft Word document version. We also have an Excel spreadsheet version as well. All right, so the instructions here towards the top basically explain that the faculty member in this case is going to be working with an instructional designer. And it basically details all the different headers that the faculty is going to be seeing. There's going to be module numbers, and that the faculty should include names. There should be overviews to that module. Module objectives. Now, I'm going to pause here a little bit to go over the overview and the objectives. Now, a module overview is extremely helpful in that it gives the student a context of why they're even in the module. Why is this module important? What is the instructor intending that students learn? And which leads into the objectives, where like as an overview, this is why you're taking this module, going through this module, and then the objectives are very specific learning, measurable items that a student should be able to do by the end of the module. So a student will be, in this case, for example, our module here and our course right now, the student will be able to outline a course. So that isn't a learning objective, and that this assignment with the course map is an assignment that then aligns to that learning objective. So I'm going to have an assignment where you're going to practice writing some learning objectives. So keep in mind two things: writing a learning objective, and then two, that how that objective aligns all the way through the assessment. So you want to make sure that you have objectives that are measurable, and then also that throughout the module, everything's hitting back to those learning objectives. Okay, so and the reason why we're emphasizing this in this part of the lecture is because this came up in our discussion at my department today, where what's the difference between an educational technologist and an instructional designer? Things like this is the difference. An educational technologist can make sure that things get into technology properly, whether it be putting content into Canvas. The instructional designer should do more than that. They should be able to guide a subject matter expert, a faculty member, a student, anyone consuming the education with sound pedagogy or sound andragogy. Again, pedagogy being more for K-12, an audience, and andragogy being more for adults. So you have more of that instructional design in mind. All right, so moving on, let's, again, I touched upon the learning materials. And if you have any questions, there's going to be some links here where you can click on them. and see what are some supplemental information. Like if you need more information about best practices for lectures or videos, these links should take you to some more supplemental information. Now, let me go into assignments and assessments. Now, this is more semantics. So people are going to be like, well, it's potato, potato. I will go ahead and overall give you that in this case, when you come up with a formative assignment versus a summative assessment, the difference is that the formative, although it's still checking for student knowledge, the intent is that the student has an option to continue to learn, to continue to practice, to have the liberty to fail. And whereas a summative assessment is usually you're ready, you think that the student is ready to do something on their own. They can take a test and pass. There's not any need to necessarily figure out what they know, fix it, so that they can score a higher grade. A summative assessment by that point is like, okay, people should know what they need to know. This is our final measurement. Now that's going to align differently with our the learning objectives we discussed, or excuse me, learning theories. So having formative and summative, people can argue is more behaviorist, more cognitive, where you're training people to have a certain behavior and you're testing them along the way. Or if you're putting knowledge into someone and you're expecting them to output, the formative might be checking that output to make sure that the connection is correct. And then finally having that correct output in a summative assessment. Whereas someone from maybe a more designing a constructivist course may not necessarily care about formative and summative. In their mind, everything is formative. Obviously, you kind of want to know whether or not people are getting it. But that's the formative, where that no one's ever really, you're still building that knowledge base. It's not that, hey, you scored a 70 out of 100%. It's really about, okay, taking that information that you're learning that in a sense isn't able to be weighed percentage-wise, and building on that knowledge for some more understanding. So that's kind of coming from a constructivist learning theory. And you may, again, in a constructivist design, you may not have both formative and summative. All right, so back to the quizzes, the discussions, the assignments. These are going to be more about those particular type of activities. And then let's go ahead and scroll down here. So at this point of the discussion of your course map, I'd like to share that this is going to be 8 modules worth. Now, defining the word module has been a challenge with some faculty. People don't really know how a module is defined. In general, we define an asynchronous online course situation per week. It just makes it easier for the student to know that in this week, I am covering this information in my class, and I'm going to be doing this, and these are the objectives, and this is how I'm going to do the assignments. Whereas if you don't have a synchronous situation, you might just be purely based on topic, and that might be one module, and a module may span more than 1 week. So, but in this case, we're going to use, for the sake of ease, 8 modules for 8 weeks. And the first week will be similar to our course in that people will have to kind of double up to do module 0, which is the orientation module, as well as module 1. Sometimes people have one module 0 be its own week. But in our case, we're going to combine module 0 and module 1. Now, as you're filling this out, though, even though the students who will be taking this online course that you're building will be doing module 0 and module 1 in week 1, I would say as a instructional designer, I probably would go ahead and fill out modules 1 through 8 first, see how it shapes out to how you want to build the course, and then go back to module 0 and your course syllabus, because by that point you'll know what you want your students to do and what you don't want them to do. So that's one suggestion. All right, so now over here in the headers, you'll basically see all the different categories we covered up here in the instructions. So down here at a more high level, you're going to include the module number, which is already included, as well as the name. So the name of module 1, so let's say you want to call it Introduction to the subject of your choice. So let me be clear, the subject of your course is up to you. Either it could be something that you're already covering, it could be something that you're interested in, a training that you'd like to give people. Like, for example, one of our classmates in this course, she is into yoga, and so you might want to do an online yoga course. Some others of you are teaching right now, so if you want to do an online version of your course, the intent is that you have something that at the end of the day you can show to a job, to have at a job talk or a potential employer, and show, hey, I can actually plan a course and I can actually build a course in Canvas. All right, so in this section here, you can go ahead and then write your module overview. So basically, 3 to 5 sentences about the module. And then over here to list your objectives. Now you can have 5 objectives, but a pitfall here is that people think I need to have a whole bunch of learning objectives. If you really only want students to do like 2 things, then just have 2 objectives. And make sure that the rest of the readings, the assignments, lectures, and the assessments align with these objectives. And if you have more, that they align as well. You don't necessarily want any objective to be orphaned, where you ended up listing a bunch of things but never had anybody do any reading related to it or never had any assignment with it. You just basically put down an objective just to have an objective. All right, so the specific readings should be specific readings with either, citations, links, etc. And so yes, so that should be what's included there. Again, the assignment here where it's more formative, you can have discussions. So maybe discussion 1. You don't necessarily need to worry about the directions here just yet. Again, this is meant to be a blueprint. So you basically want to fill out these boxes so that when you start building your course in Canvas, you can start filling out all the content pages or quizzes, or create how many quizzes you think there'll be, and the assignments. And basically what I'll do is take the map and a later assignment and show you how to take the map and convert it, or how you can use it to build your online course. Here you'll have the lectures, whether or not you want to have a lecture 1 recorded by yourself, or, and this is an area for debate too, a YouTube or any other video link. Now, the reason why this is controversial is because people say that in order for you to lecture, it should be you. But I don't subscribe to that. I believe that, for example, with the ADA compliance, even though I'm very good at knowing what's going on with ADA compliance, it's not something I do day in and day out. It's not my job to focus on that in a way that I need to educate others about it solely. I mean, I need to, but that's not my main job. So, but the woman's video that you created, I mean, she's more surrounded by that topic every day. So I would consider her to be more of an expert than I am. So rather than make you all listen to me talking about that, that way you have a video that's more related to that. Now, assessment-wise, you can then maybe include that you're going to include a quiz 1. And then so go ahead and fill this out. The places where you're going to need some more time are what you want your subjects to be, writing this overview, including the objectives, and generally finding the readings, appropriate readings, as well as figuring out which kind of lectures you want These are all items that are going to take you some time, which is why we're only doing 8 modules. And I'm going to have you go ahead and just fill out this map. Now, don't be alarmed. You're going to be creating some things that you're writing about, but you won't necessarily have to create everything. So, for example, I will ask you to create at least 1 lecture video, but you won't be asked to make all the videos for your course. I would rather you just practice and then, you know, find placeholder videos where you're like, maybe I'd include a video like this, and I would make it if I had more time, kind of deal thing for when you actually do build this course. All right, so again, this is something that you should fill out by the end of this week. If you have any questions, please let me know. All right, good luck.